I think that the killing of all innocent civilians is dastardly, should be condemned, and whether it is from Sabra in Shatila, whether it is on the 7th of October, whether it's on the 8th of October, I think that has to be the litmus. And I'm not saying that
so you would condemn Hamas?
I'm not saying that theoretically. What I am saying is that is what is taught to me by my faith.
No, that you don't take. But just to be clear, you do condemn Hamas?
I condemn anyone who
not
kills
anyone.
innocent civilians. I condemn the IDF for doing that. I will condemn even Hamas soldiers for doing that. Okay. We even do that with anyone.
It wasn't like a general, who else do you condemn? It's purely...
No, it is.
After October the 7th, I don't know how anyone
We all have our favourite victims and we all have our favourite aggressors. I draw the line across all people who violate a faith teaching of mine and who violate the way in which we conducted mostly our struggle in South Africa.
Do you think Israel had a right to defend itself after October the 7th?
Anyone has the right to defend itself. Hamas would argue that they were defending themselves against 70 years of the Nakba. We cannot have a whole entire struggle based on reprisals and vengeance. That is the great lesson that South Africa has taught. We embraced to the extent that I served in the cabinet of the last apartheid police minister who put me in jail. Vengeance is never the motive for going forward. And when I speak on the basis of experience and the internal soul searching I've had to do to be able to reconcile with people who put me in jail, who killed comrades of mine on the battlefield. I've mourned at many graves and I've had to overcome all of that to make the South African experiment work. So when we spoke to our white community, everyone applauded. When we speak to other aggressors in the world and say there is a better way, everyone says, how can you associate with them? Why is it acceptable and laudable that we speak to our white oppressors and come to common terms, but you can speak to no one else to share the South African
But to avoid
example?
any ambiguity, when it comes to what Hamas did on October the 7th, you wouldn't argue that was self-defense or justified in any way?
I think that in the same way that a Nelson Mandela, right up till his 90th birthday in the USA, was on a terrorist list until he was taken off.
You're not really comparing Mandela to Hamas, surely?
I am saying that anyone who fights for freedom always believes that it has a moral right.
Massacring people on a Jewish holiday inside of their homes is fighting for freedom?
Anyone who opposes that freedom
Can you just answer the
feels
question?
that they have the right to be able to condemn things. So what I am saying is that
I'm stunned you've evoked the name of Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela,
when I ask you about what Hamas did.
Nelson Mandela is the litmus test of how long it takes a Western community to take a man off a terrorist list.
Well, what we saw just to be clear, though, what we saw on October the 7th was not freedom fighting. It was a grotesque act of mass terrorism.
And that's what I'm saying, that all such loss of innocent lives must be condemned.
But why can't you just condemn it on his own? Why invoke Mandela's name?
No, because I'm saying that the same reasoning that Emily brings to it, that those are terrorists and the IDF must have a...
Not only are they terrorists, they're terrorists.
Emily, you're responsible.
You have decades of supporting. You have decades of involvement with. You are a known Muslim Brotherhood affiliate. You have participated in fundraisers that went directly to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health that are murdering Palestinians.
In 1984.
Not in 1984. 2 weeks before October 7th, you posted about Ismail Haniyeh praising him. 2 weeks before October 7th. Not only that, the South African government sent a delegation to the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Emily, you don't know me.
I don't appreciate people who are lying.
You don't know me.
Who are lying to my face when I know that you have participated in fundraisers for Hamas.
What you want to, and shouting does not assert
your
the truth.
associates, or people who have funded Hamas.
What we are saying is that I had in 1984 already seen the limitations of an Islamist viewpoint. We formed our own organization, the Call of Islam. We affiliated to the Liberation Movement, the United Democratic Front, and to Archbishop Desmond Tutu's interfaith movement. And that is the way in which we have carved out a democratic Islam. That's how we participated in the struggle and in the transition.
False.
And so you are speaking to a stereotype, and I know that's very
No, I'm not. I'm speaking about your statements in recent years on your social media. You openly praised Qaradawi recently.
You can
talk about 1984 all you want. You're lying through your teeth. The evidence is there for everyone to see.
The fact is that when you get into that personal zone of calling me a liar, then I know that you're desperate for answers. What I am saying is you've got to judge me by what I have done. And you can go and ask your own people in South Africa, in the Jewish Board of Deputies, where have I stood? When
we know exactly
there were terrorist groupings in Cape Town bombing synagogues, I was the one, as the leader of the ANC there, later as the premier, who had to understand that I needed to be the bulwark against extremism in the name of my religion, and I needed to do that. And that put me on a death list, and I've had to manage all of that.
Would you categorize what Hamas did on October the 7th as extremism?
I think it's any killing of innocents is extremism. Sometimes extremism
Do you believe that the victims of October 7th
like
were
Hamas has done, and sometimes extremism
But is
finds
it
itself in
justified if, as you put it, you're fighting for freedom? Is it justified?
I think that there must be limits on the methodology of fighting for freedom, but there is no limits on the legitimacy for fighting for freedom and against occupation.
But then you're implying that what they did was legitimate.
I'm saying that everyone who fights for freedom will justify. We've had many trends.
But there was nothing legitimate about what Hamas did that day.
And there's nothing legitimate about what happened from October the 8th onwards. You have said it yourself.
Well,
yes, it's unconscionable.
Yes, but what
it's unacceptable.
Yes, I know,
Starvation is a weapon of war.
Here's the difference. I am completely unambiguous when it comes to what Hamas did and what that made them. In that moment, they identified themselves as a terrorist organisation.
That the innocent lives lost on October the 7th is unconscionable.
Are they terrorists, Hamas?
They are extreme.
Are they terrorists?
In the same way that I would say that you cannot have an elected government simply being called a terrorist government. And the same way
they murdered
that I don't
1,200 people, kidnapped 250.
There's 60,000 people murdered.
Yeah.